Hello, IWF sisters, and welcome to another episode of Behind Her Bio, where I am asking the same questions that uncover these incredible, personal, unique, dynamic stories of the women of IWF. I ask the same set of questions. They bring out these incredible narratives, and what these narratives do is highlight just how unique our stories are, but they also bring powerful reminders of what unite us. And today I am getting behind the bio of Mary Lee Montague. She is the founder and strategic advisor of Montague and Associates LLC, where she's helping leaders find executive positions through tactical advice. So for many years, Mary Lee worked as an executive search consultant, helping organizations find the right leaders. And through her research and experience, she created the Montague Method to help senior executives prepare for job changes. She recently produced the masterclass, Secrets from a Search Consultant. Mary Lee's diverse background and global experiences gives her unique insights into what it takes to get to and then succeed in the C-suite or on a board of directors. Before starting her company, she worked for over 20 years at global search firms DHR International and Heidrick and Struggles. She has also held leadership roles in sales and marketing and has taught at Northwestern University. Mary Lee serves on the board of advisors for Scout Logic and is a graduate of Second City Improv. A Midwesterner through and through, she was raised in Springfield, Illinois by philanthropic parents. And Mary Lee, with that, has always valued giving back. She has served on many nonprofit boards and is currently on the national board for Blessings in a Backpack, which provides food for kids in need. She has held leadership positions with the International Women's Forum, both locally as the president, IWF Chicago Forum, as well as on the Global IWF Foundation Board. She is a member of several organizations, including the Union League Club and the Economic Club of Chicago. Along with her husband, Bruce, their dog Lincoln, and cat Miss Harris, they moved from Chicago to New Buffalo Township, Michigan a couple of years ago. She is an avid traveler and recently visited the Amazon and Machu Picchu with National Geographic. She winters in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, collects her street art globally, and is a local foodie. In her free time, she enjoys e-biking, reading historical fiction, and playing golf with her husband. She's dedicated to combining her purpose and passion to help others succeed. And today she is with us where we can get behind a lot of the layers of who she is, what drives her purpose, what her different passions are. Welcome, Mary Lee.
No, thank you so much.
I'm so
Excited to be here. And yeah.
Yes, and this is raw and unedited. So I hope I pronounced everything in your bio correctly as I was reading it. And I almost paused because I noted again the Second City Improv. So I don't know if that's coming up, but I just wanted to call out that already is an interesting, I think, behind.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, that's actually, I should talk about that. I wasn't thinking about it, but I will. Yeah.
I think it's great.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going to jump right in with what is the most unusual item you keep by your bed?
Yeah, so that was a good one. So I had to go down and like really look around. But so I have a big pile of books. And one of the books that is always there. And sometimes I don't even pick it up and read it because I just love the title. Or I should say the title just speaks to me so much. And the name of the book is called Necessary Losses.
I like it.
And I thought and it just kind of grounds me because it talks about, all things that we have to give up in order to grow.
Yes.
And I'm a collector. And I've collected friends, and I have people in my life that, but it talks about dependencies and illusions that we make up for ourselves, and the expectations of the expectations you set for yourself, the expectations you set for others, what isn't met, what is met, and it's, you got to ebb and flow along the way. And there are necessary losses that happen in your life. and the stages of life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
as you grow, there's, like getting old, like you grow old, and there's, the imperfect connections along the way. We talk
Yeah.
about family and
Yeah.
friends and marriage and, just all of that. So that's next to my bed, necessary losses. And if anybody is interested, it's an older book. I know it's still out there. The author's name is Judith Voiced, Viorse.
I definitely made note. So much of that resonates. And I think as you get older, you become more accepting, maybe not always an appreciation of the losses, but definitely accepting of those necessary losses. And when I talk about them in my work, label them as essential disruptions that can come in the form of bumps
Mm-hmm.
with my B-list living framework, and then how we have to give ourselves boosts. And sometimes it's boosting people out and boosting different things out so that we can let new things in as we are becoming new, and grieving those losses at times, but it is still necessary for us to continue to become who we need to become in this season. So I love that.
Yes. And telling yourself probably many times that it's okay.
It's yes, yes.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Yes. It
Mm-hmm.
is okay. It will be okay. It may not feel okay right now. When I coach, I say that all the time. I know it feels icky right now, but it will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great book to keep. And I know I did make note that you said that stays by your bed. So I'm guessing some come and go. But that one is one that you keep there at all times.
That one just that's always there, exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
I just have to look over there, and it kind of grounds me when I look at just the title.
Yeah, just the title. I agree. It is a lot
Just
of
the
power
title, yeah.
in just the title. Yeah, as soon as you said it, it already had resonated with different things for me. I'll be 47 in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? 2 weeks and a day.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so excited, but I think about so much that I have continued to let go, to let in though. So yes, the space isn't lost, and I'm going to move on. I am going to move on because I can keep going on and on about
I
this
know
subject.
this is not a rabbit hole, but it is a very curious discussion that
It
is that could be therapeutic
is.
and aha driven in a lot of different ways. So
Truly,
yeah.
truly, yes. Yeah, I'll just say this really quick. The space isn't lost. It's what we may lose what's filling that space, but it's because we need something else to come into that space. So,
Mm-hmm.
mm. All right.
Yep.
So, Mary Lee, you are definitely an everyday hero, a woman that shows up and champions those around you. You do it without hesitation. You're not thinking about fear of competition. And sometimes we put limits on who we see as everyday heroes. They have to have done these big things that everybody sees versus the people that are just doing and being good every day. So I'm curious, who are the heroes you encounter every day and how do they inspire you?
So we actually have two stories. Is that okay? Two stories?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So one is actually a rather recent story.
Okay.
And it's happening right now.
Mm.
So I met a gal through IWF. I went to one of the global conferences. This was one in Detroit. So it was a couple years ago. And I I have been very active with the fellows, the IWF fellows, which is made up of women around the world, maybe between the ages of 35 and maybe 50. And they have to be interviewed for this fellows program. And it's a big deal program. It's probably one of the best fellows program ever. And uh, anyway, I've been involved with them. So I was at the conference and sat next to a woman who is a current fellow. Her name is Anne, and Anne works at the State Department. And so at the time, she was in charge of the Ukraine desk, which has all kinds of visions in itself. But
Mm-hmm.
in further exploring it with her, she was actually on mission with the State Department to work on getting the Ukrainian babies back from Russia.
My goodness.
Yeah, talk about, we're in a global world here. This is, we're global citizens. So anyway, but we started talking, and when she learned what I did for a living, as far as executive search and all of that, she told me that the next day via Zoom, while she was at the conference, he was going to be interviewing for what she thought would be her dream job. And she was really nervous. So of course I was like, walk this way. We're gonna play hooky from the conference for a minute here, and I'm gonna help you. So we went off in a corner, and I gave her some of my words of wisdom about interviewing and addressing and storytelling and all of that. And make a long story short, she got the job. Now, the way that the State Department works is she was interviewing for a job that wasn't even starting for like a year and a half. Like it's starting like this summer. And the job was at the US Embassy in Brussels. And to make things even more complicated, her husband works for NATO, and he was in Brussels. And it's really odd to have a married family or married couple being able to successfully get gigs in the same country, city, whatever. I mean, it usually doesn't happen. And they were moving from Washington, D.C. with their 3 kids, 14, 12, and 9-ish. And she got the gig. And so they're now over in Brussels. And she is concluding her term at the Ukraine desk and will be moving into this new role. And then all the crazy started happening in DC, and the cutbacks across the State Department. And she came to me, and she's very worried about her role and possibly her husband's role being eliminated. And where my encounter with her came in was, I worked with her on her resume. And what's interesting is she was getting her resume ready for a business job for a company. And she had been in the State Department for over 20 years. And all of her thinking, all of her talk, all of her resume, it is this global. I mean, she's been around the world working for the State Department, and it's so where it inspires me that she is thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I am struggling with helping her take her State Department credentials and put them into layman's or business terms so that she can articulate them when she's on an interview. And it doesn't come naturally to her. And it doesn't come naturally to me, because some of the things that she does in the State Department, I don't fully understand.
Yeah.
And so it's really been a process. And I really consider her a hero on many, many levels, just with the job that she's had, the job that she wants to keep. And she hopes she does, but also that she is, knows that she's got to be ready to pivot, which is one of my big things, is pivoting. And and since then, believe it or not, somebody else from the State Department has reached out to me to be a client with the same issue.
I do believe it, actually. And it would be interesting. You probably could get a ton of stories in this global climate of that happening, and people wanting to share this type of story and what it requires to like reinvent themselves. It's reinventing, but also, as I'm hearing you, them understanding truly their core gifts, and now how does that translate over to something else? And that can be a powerful thing, but it can also require vulnerability, which it sounds like she's leaning into as well.
Yes. And how to take all these great stories that she has
Yeah.
and turn them into, articulate them in a business sense that I know she's qualified for, but she's got to get the person that's interviewing her to understand it as well.
Yeah, that takes I mean, that does require for me, as I listen, like a lot of vulnerability because you're putting yourself, all of yourself out there to be seen and hoping that someone really sees you for who you are. Very powerful. And you said you have a second
Exactly.
story, a second hero?
My second story, yes, it also has to do with IWF, which I guess kind of means that IWF means a lot to me. I sat on their global board, but I also sat on their local board, and I was president of the local board. And my heroes, and I'm gonna call them she-ros,
Uh-huh.
because is a story about that not very many people at IWF Chicago know, but my everyday heroes are the board of directors that served with me during my time as president of the Chicago
I
Forum.
can see that.
And
Mhm.
what what people don't know is that at that time, IWF Chicago was in a time of chaos within the organization. But if you weren't on the board, you really didn't see it. You just like, these are the programs and this is what we're going to go to. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of chaos going on and nobody was doing anything about it. And then finally, the board wasn't being led. And I could go down a huge rabbit hole on this. But, at the end of the day, a group of women took control and they led an initiative to do a turnaround. And, we, there was not a there was not a there was nothing that didn't get looked at. And we asked the board to meet in August, like the middle of August, which like usually people are on vacation or out or whatever,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
everybody showed up
Mhm.
in person. um, and we all wanted to fix it. And so shortly after that, I was asked to be president, and the board, we stayed around. This board was very involved in it all, and we tore it apart and we reworked it and we looked at the bylaws and we built on it, and it really took a village. And
Yeah.
this board rose to the task to the point that their terms were over with. They were supposed to roll out, but we extended all the terms because we weren't
Mhm.
done yet doing
I love that.
this
Mhm.
during this doing this turnaround. And it was not the right time to bring in new people to the board because we needed to just keep going and make it happen. And through that we got the new bylaws and we got committee structures and action plans and the enthusiasm that turned everything around. And I see it all being built on today, which is just awesome. And
Yeah.
these women were really rock stars, and the organization really owes a lot to these
Mm.
unsung heroes. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I just feel honored to have been with them on this journey. And now we can all sit back and just see what an awesome organization this is.
I love that.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's the epitome too of an everyday hero doing so much that they don't get credit for, right? But doing it because it's supposed to be done and extending themselves and not necessarily, well, the term's up, here's the rules, I'm done, but this is what needs to be done. So I'm gonna keep going.
we all knew we had such a great, you know, organization at its essence, and the platform for IWF nationally and globally as well as locally was really something to build on. And it we made it happen.
It's so good. I love that. I love that. And
And
I
we were able to do it without like saying, you know, this place is, in chaos and, like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean,
focus
like,
on the
we
mission.
didn't like
Yeah,
string it out. Yeah, we just got in there and did it
because you had a purpose, right?
because
So
we had
you
a
stay
purpose. We
focused
had a
on the
very
purpose.
strong purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick plug for my book,
Yes.
Prioritize Your Purpose Every Day. Okay, so If
Purpose,
you
purpose and passion.
Purpose and passion, yes, got to keep it a priority. Mary Lee, if you could thank one person from your past, who would it be and why? And if you have more than one person, because usually people do, please feel free to share more than one person.
Actually, I'll just share one.
Okay.
I have so many that I could like just go down a full list, but I really thought about this, and this gal's name is Mary Karen King.
Mary Karen King.
I have not kept, I have not kept in touch with her. But she was my RA freshman year in college.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and the story was I decided to go into, I decided I wanted to be a dental hygienist. Not really sure, why I decided to go down that path. Somewhere I got it in me that it was, that they paid well. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I was the oldest of 5 sisters, and I didn't really have a lot of guidance as to, we didn't go on college visits across the country at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, I was going to go to a state school or somewhere in the state, and like that. And there was either a community college or a 4-year university that had a dental hygiene program. And so I decided, to go to the 4-year school, and that's where I met Mary Kieran, my resident advisor. And she was so cool and so outgoing and so friendly. And I learned, like, probably the first time, like the first day on campus, I learned that she was a communications major with an emphasis on journalism. And I was like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And she did. And I asked about all these classes. They were in radio and TV and in writing and in public relations and in public speaking and, more journalism and writing for the newspaper. And oh my God, well, it all resonated with me. And I never took a science class. I never looked back at being a dental hygienist.
Wow.
And the first job I had ever had was working for a PR firm in Washington, D.C. And then it just all kind of kept going. I went to work for WTTW, the PBS station in Chicago. I was there for 15 years. And, I had a bunch of professional pivots. Not a lot. I mean, 15 years at TTW, 30 years in executive search. But now it's interesting, like my aha is that I've come full circle. And now I'm about to launch writing a book and using my adventure of my background in journalism and all my writing skills to write this book called Secrets from a Search Consultant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I first, for anyone listening, probably went back to the vision of their RA as a freshman in college. Because I know I did. Her face came so just clear as day, beautiful woman, welcoming smile. I think that's an incredible job to have. And yes, may we all thank Mary Karen King, because you are who you are. We have benefited from you, and she played a pivotal role in that journey. So that's awesome that she was able to present herself in her purpose at that time in a way that got you rooted and grounded in yours.
Yes. And I tried to find her and I just can't. But, I think that's, I kept my maiden name. And but those who didn't,
that's right.
They kind of get lost.
They do. That frustrates me so much. Sometimes I try to put in, and you probably wouldn't even know, like the hometown, to see if you can find, like, I try to add different things, but there's been people I've lost too, and I know it's because I'm going by their name in high school.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Mary Karen King is out there somewhere.
King, yes.
Thank you, girl. I still honor you every day.
That's with what you do and how you stand in your purpose. You do. I love that.
Yes. And thank her that I am not a dental hygienist. Could you have funked it?
completely wow. Yes. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
I
grateful
know.
because I wouldn't have known you unless somehow I ended up in your seat. I don't know. Maybe, if we were meant to meet in your dental chair. How do you perceive freedom, or how did you
Yeah.
perceive freedom as a child? And how do you define or seek freedom today?
So, I grew up, freedom for me was coming home when the street lights came on.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Springfield, Illinois. I'm a down to earth Midwestern gal.
Yep.
And we, we ran with the kids in the neighborhood. We would run around after dinner playing kickball or dodgeball or riding our bikes everywhere. And many of those kids that I did all that with when I was a kid are still my friends today.
Yeah.
Um, and so that kind of grounds me. The rude awakening was if I didn't come home when the street lights came on, then my mom got out the cowbell and she rang the bell. Rang the bell. We had no cows. Just we didn't live in a farm or anything like
She
that. But it
had
was
that
really
bell.
she had that bell. It was really loud, and she would ring the bell, and somehow down the road it'd be, really, your mom's calling you home. Anyway, that was my that was a big part of it. And now I think I seek my freedom. I was trying to relate it to like coming home, when the streetlights came on, but it really doesn't. There isn't. But I my freedom is giving myself permission to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that the various pivots I've taken over the years, or call them risks, um, I've I'm actually pretty comfortable just going for it.
Yeah.
And I made that pivot in college, and then I was in a great job working in a kind of a sexy environment at public television, and I felt like I topped out, and I totally changed careers and went into executive search. And the way I did that was I sat on a nonprofit nominating committee, and that was my aha, that I loved it. It was like putting leaders in this nonprofit organization, and it was like running your own little mini search firm. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
love this. This is
Mm-hmm.
executive search. And so I left PBS and used my network to get a job in executive search. And then I pivoted again. I was doing professional services search work. My clients were professional service firms that needed me to find their executive. But my passion was nonprofit. And so I pivoted to exclusively doing nonprofit executive search,
Mm-hmm.
where my
Mm-hmm.
clients were nonprofits and they would hire me to find their next CEO. So, and then there's like I left one firm and went to another, and then I started my own firm. Those were a whole bunch of pivots, some of them crazier than the others. And then a personal pivot is my husband and I picked up our roots in downtown Chicago and moved about an hour and 15 minutes away around the lake to a beach community. And even though we're only like an hour and 15 minutes away from Chicago, it's a totally different gig when you move.
Yeah.
When you
Really
move
is.
when you move communities.
Yeah, yeah,
And
of
that
course.
was a
Of
big
course.
pivot.
Yeah.
And now this current pivot with having individual clients and working with them, and then going on this journey of writing a book. And I just did this master class that helps me get ready to do this book. It's been a bunch of pivots. And the interesting thing to me is a lot of people, when you pivot, it gets a lot of people's underwear in a knot. It's fascinating because I don't think I take it that they want to pivot themselves, but they don't have the nerve to do it. And when they see
Mm-hmm.
other people making
Mm-hmm.
changes or pivoting or taking risks, they're like, well, wow, and sometimes they can be, they can not be nasty, but they can shed negativity as
Yeah.
to, well, why are you doing that? Or why would you want to do
Try
that?
to plant
I mean,
doubts into what
yeah,
you are pretty darn definite about, right?
yeah. Like somebody
Yeah.
asked me the other day, like, well, Mary, when are you gonna stop working? Like, damn.
My
I
goodness.
like this. I like this.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you should have just said, why should I? What made you ask me that? Because that's a them thing. That's not a Mary Lee thing. That's a them thing.
That is a them thing. Yes, yes. And, I wanted to go back. It's like, hey, I have been working my entire life. But I mean, babysitting. And then when I was 13, I got a job at Baskin Robbins making 95 cents an hour. And I loved it. I mean, and it just kept, and I've kept going ever since. I worked probably 30 hours when I was in college. I've
Well,
never not worked, and I enjoy it.
that's what I was just gonna say, Mary Lee, is so many people don't do what they really enjoy. Like, especially as entrepreneurs, you have to. And when people ask, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, oh, I'll be doing XYZ, and it's something about my business. And I don't even think twice about working, and I'm using quotes because I'm doing what I love. So it doesn't even, I don't think twice about the time of day or what day I'm doing it because I'm doing what I love. So I love that you have the freedom to do what you love every day and to make choices that have allowed you to evolve that throughout your career, and just kind of allowing these moments as you've needed them is something. I did it behind her bio with Gail Golden the other day, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said too, freedom is not just having the imagination to do something, but then being able to act on it. And so you've been able to act on a lot of your choices, which is great.
It is. And, I try, kind of keeping with this thing, we moved up here to this beach community, and I was like trying to be sort of retired, but not really, but trying to meet new friends. And, I joined the 9-hole golf league, and I do like to golf, but when I was out there golfing, I'd rather have been in my office doing my thing.
Your
And
zone,
then
your
finally, after a
studio.
couple of years of doing that, yeah, after a couple of years of doing that, I said to my husband, I was like, I'm thinking about, dropping out of the 9-hole golf league. And he's like, I don't care what you do as long as you play golf with me on Sundays. I'm like, God love you, buddy.
That's great. See, that's wonderful. You have that village supporting you and your husband. That's awesome. I just wanted to say quickly too, as you were talking about these people who are bringing doubts, and how it can ruffle other people's feathers, which again, it's a them problem, not a you problem. But one of my Kalila notes, which I don't know if it's in this book, but it'll definitely be in the future book. This book that I just published, or my next book, but let them come to terms with who you are. And I tell people that all the time. Like, you just let them come to terms. Don't change a thing. Don't try to manage it. And they may not come to terms with who you are, and that's okay too. Going back to what we said
Yeah.
earlier, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I don't know if it's golf. We talked about you being a foodie in your bio. You did Second City. So I'm curious, what's a personal or hidden passion that drives you, or a story from your life that has shaped you, but it's rarely mentioned in your professional narrative?
It's I was going to tell you something totally different, but I totally forgot about Second City, and that was awesome. And I don't talk about it very much. I like putting it on my bio just because it's kind of like what? Um,
Right.
but it's and the wild thing is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the oldest of 5 sisters, and there's
Mm-hmm.
11-year difference between myself and my youngest sister.
Mm-hmm.
And we were home for Christmas, years ago, and we were both talking about how we've been wanting to do the Second City, and I did Second City with my youngest sister, and
Wait, so this
it
was
was
just a few years
fabulous.
ago? This was just a few years ago.
No, this was a
Oh,
while. This was a no. This was a while ago. I
okay.
bet I did Second City oh my gosh, 10 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. But still, like
Yeah, but
recent enough.
uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, and Second City it's made up when you become a graduate of Second City, it's a full year, and it's broken into five, I think it's like 5 10-week sessions. And after each 10 weeks, you perform. You had to go up and like do all this improv. And oh my God, my husband wanted to crawl under the table. He was so embarrassed. But but anyway, my sister and I did this together. We had this, there was a group, there was probably, I don't know, maybe 15 people in our Second City class. And I did it because I was in sales and, improv and sales and kind of like
Yeah.
tap dancing your way through a business
Yeah.
call.
Mhm.
What they taught you in these classes, what improv teaches you, is basically how to get up and tap dance through life. And it had a lot of business skills. And my sister, on the other hand, yes, she used it professionally, I'm sure, but she's actually really funny. And she went on to do some stand-up in Chicago.
Stop it.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? But it was very, our last class was on stage at Second City to a paying audience. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I'm not going to say it was pretty funny, but it was pretty crazy.
I love that we have gotten that insight to you, and also just how it shaped you as you continue to grow as a business person as well. So that's
I would recommend it to anybody. You could
I've
sit down
heard
and
that.
take a
Yeah.
business class at, any university or anything that your office or your company might offer you, but this is the real stuff.
Hmm. My son did
Yeah.
a Second City camp when he was younger, and I'm way up north, but I would love to at some point do that as well, because I do think it just taps into you being able to pivot right there in the moment, not just
Absolutely.
transition, but right there in the moment. How do you pivot? So that's great. Um,
And check into it, because I do think they have some classes in the suburbs also. It's not all downtown.
that would be incredible. I love that. Let me write that down really quick because I need to keep asking you questions. Okay. Can you recount a time when your routine or habits were disrupted in a way that led you to discover a new aspect of yourself?
Yeah, I think it was when I finally made the decision to start my own business.
Mm.
I actually have to admit I was mad at myself. It's like, why didn't I do this earlier?
Mm.
You talk about, oh, I love to take risks, and I'm not afraid and I can pivot. And I waited way too long to start my own business, because as soon as I did, I was just thriving,
Mm.
thriving.
Mhm.
And it's running your own business, you definitely find out different aspects about yourself, that's for sure.
Huh. Yes.
You eat what you kill.
Period.
That term is loud and clear. Yeah.
Period.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
It's but it was also, the way when I there was such a weight that was lifted off of me when I got out of the crazy
I get that.
corporate life and the
Mm.
expectations of
Mm.
all of that. And yeah, it was I it that really was one of the best things I ever did for myself, and it was a game changer.
What do you feel like you discovered new about yourself with that?
Mm. Well, well, I gave myself permission not to take on crazy clients.
Mm. Hmm.
When you're in the corporate setting, it's rare that you can say, no, I'm not going to take you on as a client. but these companies would come to me, these nonprofits would come to me, and they were so dysfunctional that they wanted me to bring in a new leader that they needed to get their act. I can't even describe. There was just a lot of, if I just didn't feel good about the company, and representing them in the marketplace for whatever reason.
Yes.
If they had a dysfunctional board and the board didn't have term limits, or there was a founder on top and there was a founder syndrome and the founder wouldn't go away, and they wanted to bring in an executive, but they wouldn't give them the right title because the founder was still coming into the office. There's just like all kinds of crazy stuff. And I could say no when I had my own business.
That's another whole behind her bio. And the freedom of being an entrepreneur. I don't even know if it's behind entrepreneurship, maybe behind her entrepreneurship. And just that resonates with me so much. Freedom of who you work with. And I always say, I can't imagine going back into a corporate job. And it's not for everybody. So I'm not saying corporate jobs are bad. For me and who I am, to have someone put a meeting on my calendar that I didn't approve, like it's a visceral reaction. We control our time too, not just who we work with, but also when we meet with people, when we start our day, when we end our day, all of that is, it's a beautiful thing. And that's something I discovered in the pandemic when we had a little bit more autonomy working from home. And I decided not to go back. When they started saying we were going to go back to the office, that's when I founded my business. Because I didn't want to go
good.
To the
office. And that's a whole other conversation that we could have, because you had gone to an office and you understood what it was like to build a culture and be part of a culture. Where I have issues today are these young people starting off right out of college, not going to an office and not being with peers and not being with people that could be their mentors, or being in an organization where you develop a culture. And I have big concerns about that for the years to come.
This culture is
because I think culture is important.
It is. Yes. And that's a whole nother, we have so many rabbit holes.
That's a whole other down. We got some rabbit holes. They're all good ones, though.
They're delicious, juicy ones. Yes. My last question for you, Mary Lee, what's a small everyday action that you do to affirm your sense of identity and authenticity?
I ran this past my husband, and I don't know, he kind of yawned at it. And I'm like, I think, but it's really important to me. I feel as though that I have developed my home into a place of my favorite things. And I'm a collector, as I think I mentioned very early in this, and I collect things, and my home it's very eclectic, and I do it a lot through art. And my husband and I collect art when we travel. We always make it a point to buy a piece of art. And literally, I bet 95% of our art is from street artists. Anywhere we travel in the world, we try to buy a piece of art. It could be a sculpture, it could be artwork on a wall. But I enjoy every day, when I walk through my home, I make it I really admire what I have on my walls and what I have around my home. And a lot of it is photographs of my family and my friends. But also, I see something that, from South Africa or from Israel or from San Miguel del Allende, or, wherever we went. It just, travel is a big thing for me. And I take the time to remember who I am by the items in my home that make up my home.
I think you said your husband yawned at that.
I know. I was like, the more I said that, I was like, damn, that kind of sounds pretty good.
It's incredible. I mean, your home reflects who you are, and it reflects who you are through also where you've been. And I think that's incredible. Like I want
Yeah,
to go see it. I want to see those aspects of Mary Lee. I think that's phenomenal.
yeah, and I am a wannabe artist. I haven't figured out what I'm really good at, but I've also taken art classes, and I'll throw up a little piece of art that I made that just
Yeah.
I appreciate.
The fact that you have a home and you said it's a collection of your favorite things, I don't know how many people can say that. And I think it's something that I'm, even as I'm hearing you, I'm like, I want to get intentional now about making sure I have some space in my home that just has my favorite things. I think that's a great thing to have in your home every day. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope other members are taking note and thinking about how they can curate that type of space and just collect those things and you know just carry, not just favorite things of who you are, but I love that it's a reflection of where you've been too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think people they feel as though that, oh, I have to design, what my living room's going to look
Right.
like. If you just
Right.
let it be who you are, it
Yes.
all comes together. And it's
Yes.
amazing how the colors come together, because once again, those are, they you gravitate towards certain colors, and when they all are put together, in a room like they are on a canvas,
Mm.
it all works.
Because it's the common thread is you, right? And what resonates with you and your husband.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say I have to get my husband. The good news is my husband and I have very similar tastes,
That's good.
which
That is
thank
very
God.
good.
Thank God. Yes.
That's very good. So you could decorate together versus him having a room and then you having a room.
I have found that if I've traveled without him and I buy a piece of art, which I do, it's interesting how he doesn't gravitate towards that piece of art that we didn't buy together.
Mm,
Yeah, I found that was interesting, but
good.
um,
I love
so
that. Well, I have loved all of this, Mary Lee, so much inspiration around, I mean, we've covered a few things around, what it means to be vulnerable and reinventing ourselves and being comfortable with pivoting, like giving ourselves permission to pivot. When you talked about, and I didn't amplify this when you said it, but many people have talked about freedom of being a child. It's just being outside until it was time to go home, and just having that freedom, I think, of being outside all day is something that I don't know if kids today really get that, but it
no.
resonated with me too as a very powerful thing, and be interesting to really sit and think about how that's impacted us, because a lot of us have that in common, and how we just need to let people come to terms with who we are and let the moment be what it needs to be are some key things that I've gathered in having this conversation with you. And just thank you for being so open to letting us get behind your bio.
Well, and thank you. It was much easier than I thought it would be. So I appreciate you,
Too.
your touch to the whole thing.
Well, thank you, Mary Lee, and
Thank
it's
you.
such a
Thank
pleasure.
you.